Bro, they came in and they paved, okay? Fresh pavement. And now they're ripping it up. And they've been doing it all day. Okay, so basically I want to sit down and do my makeup. I've been super inspired by Chappell Roan's looks recently. Loved the look that Donnie Davy did on her for Coachella. I know I'm late. I'm late to everything. But I've just been loving those kinds of looks. I'm also very inspired by BRAT summer, okay? I'm very inspired. I've been big into teals, so we're going to be messing around with teals today. And I wanted to do just like the most. I've been wanting to do the most with my makeup, so that's what we're going to be doing. I'm not going to be talking through the makeup look. I will have all of the products linked down below. Anything that is available in the YouTube shop will be timestamped and should pop up when I'm using it. If not, if you miss something, like if it doesn't pop up, everything is always linked in the description, you guys, especially if there are brands that are not carried by YouTube shopping. So it's like a little bit out of the way. You have to do a little bit more work, but I always have everything linked in the description. So while we do this makeup look, I wanted to talk to you. I kind of just wanted to talk about my journey with learning more about OCD. I just wanted to talk about it because I had some people who resonated quite a bit, or if they didn't resonate, were at least very interested in it as a topic. I've like touched on slightly more personal things here and there, but never gone on like a deep dive on mental health. I feel like I've sort of like hinted at problems that I've had with anxiety or depression. And I feel like most of the time, you guys, my audience, is very receptive to that kind of thing. I think I talked recently about like my obsession with lists and organization and how I kind of create, I believe this was actually something that I either talked about right before my break in June, or maybe it was right after. I feel like it was right before, but maybe it wasn't. I honestly, like, what is time? What is time? Truly, what is it? I really learned during my break that I have a problem with compulsive behavior. And it's interesting because when I started to sort of look into OCD, I always knew that I had these things. Like, I always knew that I needed to fully clean all of my dishes before they went in the dishwasher. And I was very hyper aware of like when I went to someone else's house and how they washed their dishes, or I was constantly checking like a glass before someone would pour me something. Like if I was at a friend's house and they were like, "Can I get you some water?" I would usually say no because I didn't want to go through the embarrassment for myself, but also I never wanted to make other people feel uncomfortable. Like I was looking at them like they were dirty, you know? Obviously that's a little bit different with my closest friends, but in like internally inside, I would be dying inside if like I went to someone's house and they picked up like a wine glass and poured me wine, if I wasn't able to double check that wine glass was clean before they poured it. You know what I mean? I had lots of like instances like that. I've had a lot of those experiences throughout my life. I've left restaurants because I didn't like the way the silverware looked. So, I've had that for a very long time. I would say probably it started in high school, but I don't really remember when it began. I have some other like really kind of classic OCD symptoms. I'm not going to list all of them because like what I learned through this treatment basically is that it attaches to everything in my life. It is connected to every single thing in my life. And that has kind of been like one of the most eye-opening experiences throughout this treatment. So I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about, I initially started just CBT therapy, which is like pretty standard for most people, cognitive behavioral therapy. And I did that for 8 months. And the first 4 months, I think I was doing it weekly. And it was really helpful. I found it very helpful, kind of like diving into, the way I grew up and understanding where certain things come from. And I think just having a person who is outside of your circle listen to you and maybe understand where you're coming from is just like a really helpful thing for most all people. I started to notice after those 4 months, I did another 4 months, I started just feeling worse. And I was still I think I still did it like every week. And then I started going to like every other week because it just didn't feel like it was helping anymore. And it felt like all of the symptoms that I recognized as being unhealthy or that made me feel worse about myself were just like through the roof, like skyrocketing. So I ended up hearing about, I think I've mentioned this a couple times, but I listened to the H3 podcast, and I don't know if any of you guys are familiar. I'm sure some of you are. But I think I first became aware of this company, NoCD, through their connection with Howie Mandel. Now, I had only known that Howie Mandel had OCD. That was literally like all I knew about him. I didn't know anything about him being a comedian. Like I didn't know shit about him. Obviously, I knew he was on like TV shows and stuff. All I knew about him was that he had OCD. And I guess even though I exhibit some of the like classic symptoms of OCD, I never viewed them as that. Or if I did like acknowledge that like, counting the steps when I walk up the stairs is OCD, I didn't think that it had anything, that it was negatively affecting me at all. Like I was just kind of like, it's like a weird quirk, or whatever. Just kind of assumed that it was, I don't know. Just like a weird quirk, just like this trait that I exhibited, and it wasn't a big deal. Like even the dishes thing, obviously saying it now out loud, it sounds like so much more of a deal than I thought it was. But I just kind of thought like, I don't know, it doesn't really affect my life that much. Like I've only left a restaurant like once, maybe. I think I've only left a restaurant once. Maybe I've done it more than that. I don't know. But the thing that I'm learning that those are reassurances. Wait, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I learned about this company, or I heard about this company called NoCD that was, I think, just represented, like Howie Mandel was a representative of, and then Sam from the H3 podcast, RIP, she's not dead, but she left. She talked about how she was working with them. And I was like, I'm just going to look this up because I started to hear just like little like rumblings here and there on social media, people like OCD things popping up. And I started to hear this thing that OCD can actually be made worse by regular therapy. And so I was like, that's interesting. I've been doing regular therapy. And while it seemed to be helpful in the beginning, I feel like I am getting so much worse. So I just decided to like call them. You can like do like a 15-minute call. None of this is sponsored or anything. I just decided to call. I made an appointment. Luckily, they take insurance, most insurance, I would say. So it's covered by my insurance, which is very, very helpful because this shit is so fucking expensive. Like any kind of mental health care, if it's not covered by insurance or if you don't have insurance, it's just like it's a nightmare. So thankfully I have insurance and they took my insurance. And I have to say that the experience with the brand in general has been so incredibly positive. I had like a first appointment with this one woman who was fine, but I didn't really feel like a connection with. And they hooked me up with another person like pretty quickly. And she's just a fucking wonder. Like I can't even express what a wonder she is. Oh, and while this treatment has been extremely emotionally and physically exhausting, it has made a world of difference. Even in the short, like, few weeks that I've been doing it, like, we kind of just got right into business, like you have like a few initial appointments where you're kind of like going over a little bit of family history and answering a lot of questions, but you just kind of get right into it. And what I've learned about treating OCD, I'd always heard the term exposure therapy, and in my mind, exposure therapy was extremely cruel. It was, oh, you're afraid of spiders? Okay, cool. We're going to throw you into a vat of spiders, and that's going to be your exposure. And I always thought, like, that's just going to make shit so much worse. And that essentially is not what I'm doing. It's not exposure therapy. The therapy that I'm doing is ERP, so it's exposure response prevention, which means that you are exposing yourself to these triggers that create discomfort, which typically would result in you creating the OCD compulsion, because it's a way for you to, I guess, kind of distract yourself. It's a way to like make yourself feel better in that moment. One of the ones that I've noticed that I do really often is when I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, especially if I'm in like a conversation with someone, is I can't sit still. Like my hands just start moving, my feet are like moving, my toes are twitching, and I've been really, really cognizant of that and trying to just like sit still. Basically, it looks super different for everyone, but what you're trying to do is figure out what that discomfort is, where it comes from, what the intrusive thoughts are that cause the discomfort that you're trying to avoid, trigger it, sit with it, deal with it, let it build and pass, to learn that you can actually sit with discomfort. You don't have to avoid it by, creating these compulsions. It's actually been incredibly complex. And I'm still learning, but it took me a really long time to even be able to kind of like recognize where what even are certain compulsions. Like I actually just had an appointment this morning and we talked about my obsession with symmetry, which I actually had a couple comments on YouTube. Some people, I think when I first mentioned OCD, I specifically saw one comment that was like, yeah, I kind of like thought that you might have that because of like how anal you are about getting eye cream, like perfectly even. Like my concealer, if I'm putting on my fingers, it has to be perfectly even. So we kind of delved into that. I'm obviously not going to tell you any of the details because that is way too fucking personal. But now I have this awareness of my need to make things even, my need for symmetry. And it's funny to think about how it only applies to certain things. I would say that it sort of applies to my makeup, but if I feel like my eyebrows aren't completely perfect, I'm not removing a full face of makeup to get it perfect. You know what I mean? One of the things that I've learned about this journey with OCD is it's very much like these things that I decide I have to do, or else I cannot go on. So if you have anything like that, if you have I have to do this thing that you can't logic yourself out of, or you are trying to logic your way into convincing other people that you have to do it, it's probably not something that you have to do. It's probably a coping mechanism for some kind of discomfort. And the question that you should be asking yourself is, why do you feel you have to do this thing? So for me, a lot of them are like, well, the most recent one, why do I feel I have to apply the same amount of eye cream to both under eyes? Why do I feel like I have to apply the exact same amount of lotion to my elbows? And why does it make me feel uncomfortable when I apply a significantly larger amount to one elbow and a much smaller amount to the other elbow? Which might sound crazy to someone, but if you have anything like this, that feels like the end of the world. It feels like I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like the end of the world. It feels like I cannot go on. I can't. I have to do this thing. Whew, girl. So this has been, if I could just kind of sum it up, this has been my journey with OCD recently. And I've been pretty shocked at how quickly I am actually experiencing positive changes and a relief from feeling like I have to do something. It's been pretty incredible because a lot of those feelings have been holding me back from creating things that I really want to be creating. For instance, I've been wanting to do like a full-on Chappell Roan makeup look for such a long time. Haven't done it yet. There's so many things that I've been wanting to do, wanting to create, but that like false feeling of things need to be perfect, things need to be just so that I can create those things. I've recognized a lot of boundaries in my life. I guess I'm just curious, like, I can only imagine that this resonates with people. And another thing I've learned is that OCD looks so differently for everyone. So if anyone out there has interest in sharing anything, I would love to hear it, because I think so many more of us experience this than we think. You know, you go through your fucking life and you think like, I'm alone, like I'm such a weirdo. And it's, in reality, you're not at all. All of us are dealing with weird shit, and it's not weird because we're all dealing with it. Ugh. Because I never imagined that that the answer for me would be seeking treatment for OCD. I never imagined that. And yet that seems to be the thing, so far at least, that has brought the most relief for me. Oh man, so I'm feeling very positive. I actually really enjoyed doing this makeup look. I did want to make it a talk through. I was just gonna like, I thought it was gonna be really, really long and I was just gonna like gab, but the freaking, the construction outside just ruined everything. Anyway, please let me know if this is something that you want me to keep you updated on, because I'm happy to share, because I wouldn't have chosen to go down this path of treatment if I hadn't heard other people talk about it. So my battery is about to die. There's yard work happening. I think the paving people are finished, but they've been coming back and forth basically this entire time. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe and comment. Let me know if there are any specific looks, maybe a specific Chappell Roan look that you actually want me to recreate. I feel a little like it won't work without the wig, but whatever. Yeah. Love you. Bye.